Well, I should have known time after time.
Why did you start Open Book?
Got fed up with people being stereotyped in a particular way, assumptions being made about people because they come from working class backgrounds. Just got completely pissed off with it and thought it's about time we try to do something to change it.
So how did you go about starting Open Book? What did you do? Where did you go?
I hijacked another project. It was an action research project, and no disrespect to it, what was going on was pretty. It was a very middle class perspective of what working class people needed. It was a middle class academic idea. Right, this is what we need to do. So there was things like relaxation classes to get people into college and competence classes, and I was like, go away, do you know what I mean? You don't. I'll teach you how to be confident, but if in this environment I need to be able to understand the language, I need to know how to write and say blah blah blah. I need to have this educational thing going on. So, because of where I've come from, because I come from the mental health system, because I sort of come from the criminal justice system, recovering addicts and all of that, I concentrated on those areas, based a lot of the provision on my experiences of coming through statutory agencies and whatever, and through the system. And as more and more people come on board, then it sort of grew. I don't like that word organically, it's a bit hippified, isn't it? But that's the way it grew. I remember one of our first students said to me, had been put on 3 forklift driving licences, and told me that he wanted to be a social worker. And I was like, well, why do you want to be a social worker? He was like, because I've never come in contact with a good social worker. And I was like, well, that fair enough. The other person who sort of really had most input into the project, besides me, who's been with the project pretty long, was Fiona, who was actually a student here.
Someone mentions about there's a project at Goldsmiths, and it's run by a fellow called Joe Baden. And I thought, well, I knew someone called Joe Baden from growing up on the Peaks Estate. But at that time I didn't know it was the same person. And she said, oh, go along, he talks just like you do, so go along and chat to him. And so I met up with Joe, and then straight away I felt like comfortable, I felt at home. It's someone I could identify with, like class-wise and culturally. And from there, he got me involved in doing some voluntary work, like helping other people with study skills, essay writing and stuff like that.
So when I come to Open Book, and Joe, I was just hovering at the door of Loafers, actually, just sort of having a little look around, waiting to try and recognise someone from the play, and Joe just saw me there, and he came over, hello mate, and he put his arm around me and said, come over here, meet everyone, and I just knew that I fitted in. I just knew that I fitted. I just felt comfortable with it.
I heard about it through this lady who was my befriender. She knew Joe, she made a phone call, and then I met him, we discussed what I wanted to do, and he got me on the access course.
I met Joe Baden and Fiona, and was shown that the opportunities to do a degree was open for people like myself, where I'd always believed it was for those other people and not me.
Well, I was in a rehab about 6 years ago with someone else that's a member of Open Book, and when we left the rehab I had to leave and look after my children and sort of like the home stuff out, and he kept saying to me, come along, and I used to think to myself, oh, I can't just turn up, I won't be able to just come along. And I think I wasted about 2 or 3 years before I eventually did come along. And I said to myself, well, if it's meant to be, they'll let me in. And when I came along, I met Natalie, and the day just went so smoothly. I got welcomed with open arms, and I sort of like met everybody, Fiona and Joe, and everyone was so lovely. And I felt really accepted, and I remember saying to myself, I should have come years ago, and it's like I'd wasted all this time.
Well, I was on probation, and I was trying to get off into something new, and I was offered forklift driving courses. I already had 2 licenses for forklift driving, and upon where they said some fella called Joe Baden's in the office today by chance, so I went in to see him, and he started talking to me about education, university, and I guess I'd always kind of had some kind of like thoughts about education, but I never had any real way of doing it. Left school when I was young, and I couldn't really read or write properly. So when Joe was talking about university, I wasn't really sure if it was really something I could do, but because of the type of person he is, I thought I could relate to him a little bit, and I just took it from there, really.
Joe Baden waylaid me in a corridor at Goldsmiths one day. I was working at Goldsmiths for about 7 years then, as a clerical officer. And he recognised me from a Millwall fanzine called The Lion Roars, which I write a column in. And immediately knowing Joe, within 10 minutes he'd asked me to take a creative writing class, to teach the creative writing class. And it went from there, really.
I fell into it by accident, really. I completed a highways course in Medway on a Saturday, and they informed me that there was summer university at Greenwich University, and I'd never really thought of it before, but after doing the highways course I just wanted to do a bit more, and I travelled up to the Greenwich campus and met another girl from Medway who said she was with Open Book and things, and I met Joe Baden over a coffee that day, and I've been with Open Book ever since.
I was at rehab in Streatham, Mount Carmel, and I came to the end of the 6 months and I didn't have a clue what I was going to do, and I was put onto a programme in Brixton called Next Steps, run by ACAPS, and just to give me a bit of structure I applied for that and did that as a 6-week course, and one of the workshops was to bring the students to Goldsmiths to be introduced to Joe and Open Book, and I liked what I saw. Joe gave a little talk, this spiel about what Open Book did and how you should get back into education for education's sake, not necessarily as a means to an end, and I liked what I heard. So I went back, finished the course, and then Julie came back once a week, every Friday, to Open Book, and that initially just again to give me structure, to keep myself sober, give myself something to do, and kept coming back.
I was a friend of mine, Martin, asked me to come down. I go to AA, and I knew him for quite a while, so I think he could see that I was struggling a bit. I was sober, but I wasn't working at the time. He said, come to this project, Open Book. So I came down here. I remember coming down here, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on when I got here, but something seemed to click. I liked the people, and I just kept coming back.
I spoke to Silver Sue afterwards, and she gave me her phone number, and I rang her up and came to Open Book the following Friday after that, and never left.
Yeah, it was all a bit strange at first, because I really didn't know what was going on. I just got invited down here by word of mouth, by a friend, and really glad that I did actually. I took him up on it.
I went to a third stage treatment house in Peckham, and obviously we don't have a lot to do in the days, and my key worker there said to me, he knew a bit about my life, he knew I'd gone to university, knew I've always been a bit of a nerd on the quiet. He said, look, go and get yourself down to Goldsmiths, there's a project there that might be able to help you with some of the educational stuff. And so I popped down and come through the door.
And then they had a training day and they gave presentations, and that's when Open Book came in, and immediately I was like, yes, this is where I want to work as well.
I was doing a master's here, and somebody told me about how Widening Participation was recruiting volunteers. I thought it sounded interesting. I went along to an interview, and Joe was one of the people doing the interview, and he sort of poached me and stopped me from doing anything with WP and said, oh, come to Open Book instead, you know. And I went along, and he was giving an outreach talk to a group of people who I think were coming from rehab, and it just sounded fantastic, and it was totally like nothing I'd ever heard about before, and I just thought Joe was brilliant, so I just sort of started volunteering a couple of times a week, and just sort of gradually became more and more involved, and obviously got to know sort of everybody who was working on the project at that point, and then just sort of stayed around for several years. Ended up doing lots of different jobs, you know. And
the very first time I came, I was really nervous. But as you know yourself, Joe, he's so bubbly. He sort of brings you out yourself, really, makes you feel comfortable. So, yeah, thumbs up to him.
I work for Aim Higher, which is part of the previous government's initiative to encourage more people into higher education. Through that, I met Joe Baden and the Open Book project about 7 years ago, and I've worked with him ever since.
I heard it through, I was working with a company before starting here with the Open Book, and I had an interview with Danny and Joe for the company that I was with, but I was more interested with the Open Book than I was my work, so I left the work and come here.
I met a guy called Joe Baden, and he was telling me about this Open Book. And he's dealing with some of the most marginalised people in our society, and I thought, if you're for real, I want to see it working. It was more curiosity than anything else, because there's a lot of people come in with training courses and it's a money-making machine. But this wasn't. This was about getting people into academia. This was about people getting degrees, our own people getting degrees, so I wanted to see it work. And I went down and I watched Open Book, and I see how they was working down there, and the client group they was working with. And we were talking about people that had come off the dope, had no hope, you know, that society had written off, really, that, you know, see you when you come back to jail, that sort of the revolving door syndrome. And here was a guy and an organisation that was actually getting these people saying, you can do it.
I went down to get an interview to become a student ambassador, and I was interviewed by Joe Baden, who was obviously part of the widening participation scheme. He looked on my personal statement and saw that I'd done a bit of kind of unofficial mentoring work for young offenders, and said to me, have you got time for a cup of coffee? So I said, yeah, all right. And he kind of convinced me to be a volunteer and a bit of a mentor to some of the people who were joining the project.
It kind of spoke to me and my past. There's addiction in my family. I also have a friend in prison, so I thought it would be good to get involved in another group of people that wasn't anything to do with dyslexia and disability or something personally to do with me, but related to a background that I had experience in. And I just thought this was a great opportunity for people to get involved and have a second chance, and education being a way to do that.
Yeah, basically volunteering at the library, a couple of people from Open Book came over there, told me that I could get my way back into education, so I thought, why not?
Just by telling me that there were people that could work with me to show me that there is more to life than just, you know, thinking that you can't do it, and encouragement that I can.
I think it was amazing to know that they were a part of this whole life, but yet they've been criminals, they've come from a certain background. I think it was amazing, and all I thought was if they could do it, I could do it.
What I like about Open Book is there's none of this kind of paternalism or kind of any of those sort of discourses of empowerment. It's not about sort of giving people the power to become educated. It's really a lot more sort of egalitarian than that. It seems to be sort of genuinely grassroots, so it's mostly people who come from working class backgrounds who really sort of know what the problems are in terms of kind of participation in further and higher education.
I definitely sort of felt that for the first time in a long time that I was around a group of people where I fitted in, because I sort of always had this thing where I felt like I never fitted into society anywhere. I always sort of felt quite alone in that sense.
Working with the students and working with people and working with everyone is blinding. It's the best thing in the world, but sometimes you come across barriers, and sometimes you come across a lot of misunderstanding from people who perhaps don't really understand the culture that we're coming from.
So I still think there's a great amount of class prejudice that goes on.
It's always been out there that I'd like to do further education, but I didn't think it was for me. I didn't think I had the right. I had a real problem with that. But through Joe and Fiona and Sue and other people in the course, James and a few other people, I thought, well, hell, if they're doing it, why can't I do it?
When you don't learn a certain vocabulary and you don't have a certain set of language to use, and then every second word's alright mate and fuck this and fuck that, people then they limit you because they think if that's all you can produce, then you must be somehow limited as well. So when I was producing this work, it was probably a basic first year university standard really, but they were so shocked because they'd obviously limited me by what they expected me to be like. So in a way, it's quite good that when they were quite happy, for me it was quite good, but in a way I felt a little bit insulted as well because I was thinking like, why would you expect me not to be able to do this work?
Widening participation, I think, has been something that has good intentions, but whose intentions don't always kind of live up to the chat, because you do normally get people who might have good intentions, but there's still that kind of disparity in terms of, you know, sort of middle class educated people telling working class people what they should do, who they should be, how they should act.
Is say to people, have ambition, have academic ambition, do whatever you like. So it's always been really difficult to fit the funding streams. Yeah, and also you've got that publicity side of things as well. So like, there's this idea that what we're doing is is somehow rewarding people because they've done wrong or whatever. And that's nothing to do with what we do. We expect people to take responsibility. Everything we do it's a difficult option. People work their socks off. We don't give people an easy route in. We sort of support them, but everyone achieves what they need to achieve to get onto their courses and everything else. But there's this assumption that sort of anything to do with like widening participation or whatever it equates to dumbing down, and that somehow we're trying to get people into the back door and all that sort of thing, which we're constantly battling.
I spoke to a few people the other day who started their degrees this year, and they all started in these classes. And when I first met them, you mentioned a degree to them, they've run away.
I remember Pat asked me one day, he said, so would you like to do a degree? And I left this building, I went up to New Cross Gate station, and I felt like throwing myself underneath a train because it was really frightening. I'd been for a taster course, I think, at Greenwich, and it was creative writing that I wanted to do at Greenwich. And it's really strange how things work, because a few years before that I'd seen a prospectus for a creative writing degree at Greenwich. I remember looking at it thinking, well, I haven't got a chance, I don't even fill in the form. I looked at the building, thought it was lovely. And when Pat said that to me that day, it was like, instead of feeling elated, I was terrified, because I knew it would change friendships. You know, no one in my family had ever been to uni before, and yeah, it was frightening. It was really frightening.
It's quite challenging to fit into the whole uni life where I've come from, but I'm kind of getting used to it now, and it's changing me every day as a person, and helping me make the right decisions in life that will making me think of consequences, because I don't want to spoil the position that I'm in, because I'm very fortunate to be in this position. I never thought I'd ever go to uni.
It's given me the opportunity, and before that, there was no opportunities, not education-wise. I don't want to give it a violin or anything, but coming from an abusive background, alcoholic parent, and all that stuff, all you ever get told is you're shit and you're useless and you're crap and you're filth and etc. 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 And then you go into school and I got expelled. I don't even know what age it was. I got expelled that often, and so when I got to open book, I was pretty much confident that I weren't never really going to achieve nothing of worth, and it was always going to be like a bit of a shit life, really.
We had another geezer who was told that his accent was disgusting by a tutor, and his accent, Cockney accent, ain't anywhere near as broad as mine. He come from Croydon or something. So we've worked with people whose sole purpose as for their job is to go out and engage young working class people in education, widening participation. Yeah? This one fella, we had a delivery driver, brought some paper in, said, where's you want it, mate? He said, go over there, please, mate. When he walked out, the bloke whose job it was, the one, and this fellow was a Marxist as well, yeah, whose job it was to engage working class young people in education, started walking around and going, where's your audit, mate? Where's your audit, mate? Where's your audit, mate? We've got, God knows how many graduates we've got, you know, PhD people, where a lot of organisations have spent vast amounts of money and can't point to any students.
If it stopped, what would happen? There'd be no people from our sort of backgrounds getting into degree courses, because the ones who are getting the funding for it ain't doing it. And the figures will show that. You have a look at the figures for open book and compare them to these kind of government or university departments that are supposed to be doing this widening participation. All they're doing is widening their own pockets. Because there ain't no students going through, not as many as open book.
Found out I was dyslexic, so Joe got all people in to help me, because obviously Joe doesn't know anything about psychology, he's more history. So when I give him my first essay, he just looked at me and said, I haven't got a clue what this is about, Em. So he got some students in that were in their third year and they mentored me. And Joe was just there for like emotional support and any other problems.
Anthony, who's a big Geordie lad, who was really pleased because he was accused of plagiarism. Yeah, so like he was over the moon, he got accused of cheating. I went, oh mate, they think I'm cheating. Yes, they must be really good.
They looked online for it, but she couldn't find it, so I sent them all my folders and everything I had, because I literally had about 10 draft copies of this essay. So then she turned around weeks later and said she never actually accused me of cheating. Another thing she said was, I don't write how I talk, which I don't want to write how I talk. I don't want to be sort of assimilated into anything. I am who I am. And I don't think anyone really writes how they talk anyway. So I took that as a compliment as well, because it just shows you how people were so quick to limit you.
The students are absolutely wonderful, they are. I admire them so much, because I see people come through so many different hurdles and over so many obstacles to get here.
And at school, I only remember the bad things. I remember being stood in the corner with a dunce's cap very often, at least twice a week, and then going up to see Miss Caldwell, who made Matilda's headmistress look quite tame. And she was scary, and she used to say, you know, that I was stupid and that I was cheating. And so you go through life and you really do begin to think, so you are stupid.
And now?
I'm getting there. My boys give me a lot of encouragement.
And so, you know, to find yourself ready for a degree, it's you know, your confidence must have really got to come up.
Yeah.
To take on a degree, and is that through open book?
Yes. Yeah. Because I've got no one. I didn't know open book was around, and I certainly didn't realise that there were people that could just listen.
So create an environment where people can feel relaxed, because if you can't relax, I think it's hard to learn. Yeah, I'm not saying you can't learn anything if you're tense, but I think it's a better environment to have it relaxed, to talk about fears around education, talk about fears around yourself, like in terms of your abilities and like the kind of messages you've been given, and to unlearn that stuff. And for a lot of people, they may have spent a long time believing a particular story about themselves, which might be that they're stupid, they're thick, that they're not capable of much. And so it's about trying to provide a space where they can unlearn that story and then learn a new one for themselves.
If they're in a slightly fragile condition because they're early in recovery or something like that, and there's a lot of self-doubt or lacking in confidence, they get that kind of support, they get that kind of reinforcement that helps them keep going.
We don't exist to justify our existence. We will never be one of those organisations that just wants to get money to be doing stuff, so that we can, all the money that we get goes in our revision.
And Joe and Pat said, have you ever thought about doing a degree? And it just shook me a bit, and I thought, well, I went to grammar school, I did an A-levels, and my grammar school headmaster said, oh well, you're not really cut out for degree standard. That was my first year, and I thought, well, thought nothing of it after that. And then it just jogged my memory, and I thought, well, But these people think I'm good enough. Because one thing about open book is they won't set you up to fail, which is one great asset.
Then I went down to Greenwich one day on an open day, and they just took me on. As soon as they heard I was an open booker, I said, look, I've got no qualifications, but I don't know whether you've heard of the open book course. I've been going there for a year. And the woman just said, open booker, I'll take you on straight away.
We've got 40 people on courses at the minute. Do you know what I mean? So eventually we're going to have all these people coming out and having their degrees and going on and then doing their PhD or whatever, or their postgraduate. So we can point out, we can go, look, what we do works. And we can also say that as far as recidivism is concerned, our statistics as far as reoffending are concerned are almost, they're minuscule.
And I must have seen, so many people come through it and go on and develop and take on university qualifications and, turn their lives around.
Because open book doesn't ask you to come in and change who you are. It's not where you've got to come in, you've got to do this to get there, to get there, to get there. It's come in, be yourself, see what you like, see what your abilities are, and then go from there.
Open book works on your humanistic needs. It treats you first and foremost as a person, rather than what your material needs are.
I think what makes open book its success is the people that run it, is the commitment of the people that run it.
I started in Sue Hallisey's class, creative writing. I got really interested in that and found that there was I could actually do a degree in creative writing, which was wonderful, and that's the route I took.
Met the guy who ran the course, another Michael, and I pestered him for about a month, ringing him every day to say, "What, are you sure I'm on the course? Do you think I'm on the course?" Because I have no recollection of filling in any forms or anything. It all just kind of fell into place. And I started my degree within a few months of coming here. I think I came here in like March, April. September I started my degree. So it happened really quickly, yeah.
And that we would attract in new female students because they would see representations of themselves and then hopefully feel inspired to come and get involved.
The very first event I came to with Open Book would be 7.5 years ago. And Aspire put on a small conference to show to Open Book the various things that were available in the universities that make up the Aspire partnership. And I sat next to somebody who had just finished her Access course and was waiting to hear whether she'd been accepted by Goldsmiths or Greenwich to start her degree. She was accepted by Goldsmiths, she completed her degree here, did very well, went on to do a master's, and has since worked with abused young people. She came from a background of abuse that I can't even begin to imagine, and yet she achieved all of that. And on the way, she also helped to educate our students through her own experiences. So it's such a two-way exchange.
I just love that passion, and I love it that they're so dedicated and they're following their passions. I love that. I love to see people happy in what they're doing and devoted to what they're doing.
And so eventually I would like to think that someone would recognise that what's important is the results you have and not looking as if you're doing something, which seems to be the case in most of within the criminal justice system, like the stuff around basic skills and rights. Bullshit. It's bullshit. All it is about trying to tick a box and pretend that you're doing something. And we're actually achieving it. We're actually doing what we say we're going to do.
Because I've got so much from Open Book, I'm more than willing to give anything I can back.
Immediately knowing Joe, within 10 minutes he'd asked me to take the creative writing class, to teach the creative writing class. And it went from there really. He claimed that, I would be an expert in the subject. I sort of didn't really believe him. 2 days later I was teaching the class.
Creative writing classes for people like me that come from the same background, that come from addiction, alcoholism, mental health, ex-offenders, people like, I guess, non-traditional students really that wouldn't think about going to uni, come along to the class, and some of them haven't written since they were at school. And I don't know if creative writing's for everyone, but it's hopefully it's informal enough for them to enjoy it and be surprised by what they create, what they come out with.
I'd always said to Joe that it couldn't really work by bluff, because I felt I was bluffing in terms of the teaching of it. We could maybe go a month, 6 weeks at best, but there had to be sort of real talent within the class, and we had it in abundance. One of the first students that came to the class was a woman by the name of Susan Hallison, and she now teaches the class herself. She runs the class.
I think the creative writing class has been one of the most successful things about Open Book as a gateway subject.
Support was so wonderful that I thought, she kept asking for homework, but a lot of people don't do homework. But I thought, of course at school I never did homework because of that authority thing. I've always been against authority, but this was my choice. This was my choice to do the homework. So every week I took in some homework for philosophy and for Sue, and I realised that I could write. That all the support they gave me made me realise that I could write.
It always lifts me up to see people coming in that haven't written anything for a long time, and they write something and they're really surprised by what they create.
So I started coming along to Sue's creative writing classes, and Fiona was doing a philosophy class, I think, at the time. So I started to come along on a Friday, all day on a Friday. I used to look forward to it all the week actually, and started to realise that I really enjoyed writing.
I've seen people go to Open Book, creative writing class, maybe write nothing in the first lesson, maybe nothing in the second lesson. The third lesson they might write a sentence, but after 4 or 5 weeks they're writing stories, they're writing little stories. And it's amazing the stuff that people have inside them that perhaps for years they just had no way of expressing this stuff. Open Book, they encourage you to express this stuff.
Growing like a weed, there is no stopping me. My roots are strong, I dig in and cling on to life. No matter how many times I'm trodden on, I will always spring back. No poison strong enough to kill me, I come back even stronger. You can cut me down, but I am reborn. I may look like a straggler, but if you used to love me, show a little care, nurture me and be patient, I will blossom and bloom to such an exquisite little life.
Brilliant. Really good. Very good. Keith?
So I'm just missing one line over here, I'll come back to me.
Didn't want to follow that, did you?
No, you said there's a line missing there. There you go. Get that on film, like there's a line missing.
Growing like a weed, I feel that my presence is unwanted. I'm growing like a weed, my expansion is vast. How can I interact with the other flowers and plants? I cannot answer right now. The gardeners grab me and rip me apart. Never fear, dear listener, because come what may, do not forget I'm a weed and will return again someday.
Growing like a weed, till we all get freed from the chains that bind us. There was no powers there to mind us. Our blood stains all around, we all went underground. The powers we did surround, for us they do oppress. Their lords they must address, my people I do caress, and the Lord our race does bless.
Keith, have you got that line?
Yeah, I've got it now. It's so good, I was under pressure. Like. Growing like a weed, life begins from tiny seed, to blossom and to grow through rain or shine and wind and snow. It takes much effort to be kind, forceful will and strong of mind. To become what I want to be takes more effort than is in me. No help supplied for what I need, so I will carry on growing like a weed.
Well done that you got that line as well. Brilliant.
I used to come to the philosophy class in creative writing, and it was just like, I don't know, it's just like really, really welcoming. I felt really cared for and sort of nurtured in a weird sort of way.
Digby had been coming to some philosophy lessons, and I liked the sound of it. And I said, "Well, how do I get in there?" So he said, "Oh, you just come down." I said, "Oh, I can't believe you can just turn up at these places." He said, "Well, phone Joe Barden and find out." So I phoned Joe Barden. Joe, of course, just said, "Yeah, just come down, mate." I said, "Well, I said, I'm not sure." I said, I'm an alcoholic, but I've been sober for 20 odd years." And he said, "Well, it doesn't matter, just come down." I came down, did a philosophy lesson with Fiona, and I just one of the things was the openness, no restriction in the class. People were coming in late, People were coming in late, but the tutors were, well, Fiona was absolutely brilliant.
I had a student turn up a few weeks ago who had been here for 6 years and said, I just took a chance that the Friday class would still be running. So it's that consistency. And I think that changes people, you know, that all of the people in Open Book are like that. They'll consistently turn up for stuff and then stay dedicated to it, and you can't really get rid of us.
It's just a nice platform to get people who've perhaps never had a voice, perhaps been told they were thick, told they can't, engaging with stuff that they probably thought they never would.
I've heard other people's views and it has made me question my own faith. My faith is just to give my kids a good life.
Sweetie, you want to be home.
But that's all you've got to hold on to nowadays, isn't it? Hoping that your kids have got a good life.
I found it fascinating and interesting. I like the whole debating thing and the counter argument and taking on one kind of theme or topic and trying to expand on it and trying to really look at it and put across an argument. I thought that was good.
Cool. Thank you.
We decided to do a showcase in the George Wood Theatre, and that was the start of it. That was about 3 years ago.
It's all people that come through Open Book and that want to write for the stage and some that want to perform. So, and it's been a really good opportunity. We've gone from strength to strength, and you see the pieces developing as they go along, and people getting confidence that are in the group that come to Michael's class for the drama.
When I started going to the Open Book class in the drama class on Fridays, and I'd never done any drama, so I thought in for a penny, in for a pound, and went along, and I actually really enjoyed it. You know, it's a place where I can prat around and be a kid.
They had a drama class going, they've got Sue Alice running the creative writing class, so you mix them up, put them together, and all of a sudden you've got a drama group that can write their own stuff. So I got involved with that open stage, and over the years we've had some really good productions on, all coming from within Open Book.
I always seem to be cast as a working class lad with issues, so I don't think the acting's been too much of a stretch, to be quite honest.
Her mum does, and she'll tell her what I've done, and that I am the only man for her. Her boss's name is Janice. She ran off with a woman, mate. You turn her into a lesbian.
The great thing about doing drama now is that I'm sort of like, I've been asked to go in this play now, which is really amazing, and I'm really, really excited about it. And yeah, it's brilliant.
The next thing I knew, I was having a conversation with Michael Marnie, and he asked me to do a reading, to read a script for the next open stage production. I'd only been coming to Open Book 2 months then, and he asked me to read this script, and I did, and the next thing I knew, he offered me a part in the next open stage production, and then I was involved in doing rehearsals for the play. Yeah, it happened so quickly for me. Towards the end, when we was actually going on stage, I did have this overwhelming urge to just sort of run away.
I went to the first rehearsals last week and got all lovey because I told them all that I loved them all very much. But I was so impressed because some of the guys in it, there's about 3 of them that have come through the project who've never done any acting before, and to see them, I'm just like, I'm really excited.
We're now rehearsing our 6th production.
Open Book was actually changing lives. And I went through education in prison, and education was my liberation. So I realised the value of a good education, and how an education can change your life.
I'm able to use my brain a bit more, be a bit more open-minded, accept people for who they are, not be judgmental.
There's encouragement to do anything you want, anything you can. The thing about Open Book is they encourage you to develop yourself.
I kind of feel like I belong, like I feel like I'm actually someone now, like I'm someone and I have the ability to be something in life.
And from the time I've got involved in Open Book, I've not committed crime.
it's been wonderful, really, you know, and I think Joe is always trying to emphasise the fact that it's all about becoming the person that he was always meant to be, and I think I've finally achieved that.
I weren't quite sure what would come of it, but the next thing I knew, I was starting the degree course, creative writing, at Greenwich in the September, and then the play went on stage in the October. So that was literally in the space of about seven months, and I mean, it really was just completely life-changing stuff. Yeah.
The fact that I was able to have my own student to help me with my psychology when I was here, I wouldn't have done it without Joe, an open book. I had reading lessons, I had my dyslexia test through Joe, otherwise I wouldn't have had that, so I would have still been sat here thinking I was a bit silly, but I'm not. I owe my life to Joe really, because he's completely changed. I'd probably still be in my house, locked up away, like a bit of a hermit otherwise. But now look at me, I'm out here, I'm free.
They opened my life up because I was 65, retired. I wanted to make films, wanted to direct films, but I had no resources. Now I'm at a place where I've got all the resources I need.
From what I've come from, it gives me a bit of stability. It gives me something, a bit of a purpose in my head. And it's also teaching my young children that there's more to life than sitting down smoking and drinking, and you've got to have some sort of positive outlook, and this is what the open book does for me.
Without it, I don't know where it would have gone, to be honest. I'd like to think I'd have stayed sober, but I mean, it has helped me enormously in my sobriety.
The representatives of the open book might have had troubled backgrounds within their past, so it makes you able to relate to them a bit more, you know?
I think it's instilled in me a confidence that I've never had growing up, in as much as putting pen to paper. Verbally, I could make an argument, or especially if I felt it was right about something like a cause, but it's allowed me to be able to put pen to paper with confidence.
It's helped me develop personally. Obviously I feel like I'm intelligent now, whereas before I thought I was stupid, but obviously that was the dyslexic side of it. But yeah, I can master all jobs now. Got a good job.
But I did this degree and I was introduced again to like Shakespeare, went to the Globe within the first week, and actually I kind of like fell in love with the Globe.
Joe was really encouraging. He said, you should go and do a degree, don't do an undergrad, go straight onto a master's degree, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous, but he made me fill in an application. He supplied me with a reference, and I applied for the English department at Goldsmiths, and I got accepted onto a master's in creative and life writing.
I found that I could put a lot of my life experiences, especially from combat, into poetry and show people my world through my eyes, and it's come across quite well.
Everybody who works on the project has kind of a genuine knowledge sort of based on their own personal experience, and I think that has made the project a lot more valuable, if you like, than the kind of standardised projects you get in most universities.
If you could bottle that, and which we're trying to do, and get it for every university in the country, then that'd be fantastic. Because there is something. It's social. It's non-judgmental. Everybody's come from the same background. Everyone comes from either addiction or criminal background. So nobody's trying to get one over on anybody else. Everyone gels with everybody.
I really don't know where it's going to go. Just to have it, just to have that degree. It's just I try not to think about sort of, get a visual image of me actually being up there in me cape or whatever they're called, a cloak.
Open book has really helped me out a lot. I feel like I belong, and I feel like I'm someone. I feel like I'm worthwhile. I feel like I can respect myself now, and I can respect others because of the position that I'm in. Whereas before, I never really cared.
Found something that I'm passionate about, and open book has given me an opportunity now to put it into a reality.
I got a picture indoors of me sitting in bed in my vest, reading a book on Hegelian philosophy, and my boy sitting next to me in his vest reading a book on dinosaurs.
That's
fantastic. That would never happen. Yeah. You know what I mean?
They've just shown me, made me look at myself in a different light, and the self-esteem and sort of just looking at myself in a different light, that I can actually do it if I put my mind to it.
I particularly like writing stories. I actually love writing poetry. Poetry is my favourite. I never ever thought I'd say that.
A mate of mine, a really good friend of mine, phoned me up one night when I was doing the MA and said, are you coming to Colchester on Tuesday to see Millwall play? And I was a little bit shooty and said, no, I can't make it. And he said, well, no, you know, we're going to Colchester, I've got you a ticket, you know. And I said, no, I really can't go. He said, well, what are you doing then? And I said, well, I'm going to a poetry recital. There was a really long silence, and all he said was, what happened to you? And then put the phone down on me.
I've always liked sort of the academic side of life. I come from a council estate. You know, if I talked about books when I was a kid, you'd get beaten up, you know what I mean? And to find a place where you have people who talk like I do, similar backgrounds, we've all had a few problems, but also get involved in education and stuff was a revelation, you know. It's just, I often say this, it's the only place I've ever really felt where I actually sort of fit in.
I always find anything that I do with Open Book, afterwards I leave feeling both absolutely invigorated, re-enthused with what I do, but physically exhausted, because there is so much energy, so much dynamism, so many ideas coming at you all the time from all of them, that's the exhausting part. But the re-energy comes again from exactly the same source, and you just feel you want to keep helping in any way that you can.
The staff and volunteers, they're all wonderful people, and it sounds all very clear, you know, like a kind of Hollywood thing, you know, everyone's great, but they really are, you know, and I think it is because they've come through so much. It's made everyone reflect and think about what's important in life.
What? And now some of your kids come along with it, and do you know what I mean? And then they can feed into what we're doing, and just to get that collaboration going.
Yeah,
just so we can get it going, so
it makes absolutely perfect sense.
So, have you got Danny's emails?
I've got Danny's emails, yeah. I'll give you a card before you shoot off my emails, yeah.
The thing I like most about Joe is that he struggles with his own problems every day. I know for a fact that he has times where he probably feels like he wants to kick off and stuff, or someone pisses him off and he wants to have a word with him. But he always holds back, and I respect that.
I'll be honest, I thought he was a bit of a spiff. And when I met him, I was still convinced of that.
I mean, when I walked through the door, I was supposed to be meeting someone called Joe Baden. And at university, I walked in thinking I'm going to meet someone who's going to go, hello, how are you? Come through here, please. And Joe bowls up, what, bruv? How you going, mate?
Joe's just always happy, chappy, comes in with a big smile and cuddle, and you just instantly like him, warm to him.
Can't even say the words to explain what he's like. He's just Joe, isn't he? Joe's Joe.
You don't ever write you off, even if you completely feel like what you set out to do. He'll still invite you around for coffee and talks and that. He'll still treat you exactly the same.
Just walked along, a phone call came, there was Joe on the phone. He said, do you want to be a teacher? Well, I didn't think I could ever be a teacher. I didn't even think I could go to university, you know, at one point. And I thought he was having a laugh. Within a month, I was a teacher. He got me a job as a teacher.
Well, I went to another conference, and the theme of it seemed to be, I met Joe Baden and now I'm studying history.
He's taught me a lot, really, because even, like, I wouldn't consider myself to be racist, I wouldn't consider myself to be a particularly nasty person in a lot of ways, but Joe Baden, the way he treats people, has really showed me that how much respect he can have with people, and really, he's taught me a lot about how to love people.
What can I say about Joe? He's the dearest, sweetest friend. He's like he is like a brother to me. He's been consistently lovely to me the whole time that I've known him. He's always been like a true friend and honest. He's courageous. Like he speaks up for like people that are don't always get their voices heard.
He's one in a million, isn't he?
He runs Open Book. He's technically the boss, but you don't think, oh, he's on some higher level hierarchy. He doesn't make you feel like you're below him, and he helps you where he can as well. Him and Fiona together work really well, and like a really good team.
Joe and Fiona, who are really genuine, and I think they gain the trust of people who come into the project because they've lived it, and they're not playing the do-gooder or, you know, the kind of kindly liberal who's going around saying, oh, we must do something for these people. It's anything but that.
Fiona, it's like people don't stop saying like what a great work she does. It's like she's their rock. I don't like using that term, their rock, but it's like some lady dying the butler term. But she is their rock. She's there through not just helping them with their essays, helping them get through their hard times in their life in some instances.
And Fiona, she's just, when you talk to her, when you sit down with her, if you go to her with a problem, she engages with, she's a great listener, she's very patient and very understanding, and it's that motor that sort of runs it.
She's just a fun, bubbly sort of person that wants to help everybody. She's there if I need her on the end of the phone as well, which is good.
She's amazing. She's a very inspiring woman. Nothing's too much of a problem for her. She'll try and help anyone that comes into her path.
And I've opened up more to Fiona than I have anybody throughout my years. So, sorry Fiona.
I'm sure she don't mind.
I hate it when over the years I've heard Joe struggling to keep it going. Not because they ain't doing no good work, because funding problems.
There's a stereotype of people who are coming through addiction from prison that all they need is basic skills. And so all the funding is pitched at that level. And most of the people that were coming to us needed more than level 1 and level entry. And it wasn't a reflection of their potential or their abilities. But of course you get people through as soon as you can, because they don't need they don't need a lot of work to get through like level 1 or level entry. In fact, they would do sort of level 3, and that corrupts the figures. So you've got 20,000 people going through sort of level 1 and level 2 courses. So the assumption's made that all you need is level 1 and level 2 courses. The fact that only half of the people that have gone through those courses needed provision at that levels is by the way. So in a lot of respects, it's always been the sort of. It's always been the funding that's dictated the need rather than the need that's dictated the funding. Luckily, Goldsmiths has been sort of solid with us, but that's not. You can't bank on that because, for example, the funding's been cut from universities. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's being done now because of the fees going up and everything else. So they're talking about like they're going to have to spend money to ensure that people are coming from sort of like perhaps so-called non-traditional backgrounds and all this and all this other. So in a lot of respects we're best placed to do that because what we do works and we've got a proven track record of being effective in what we do. So it swings and roundabouts, but yeah, I mean very early on, really early on, I was working at one point without even knowing if I was going to get paid.
10 years I've known him, I've seen him where it's come, never known if they're going to be able to continue the next week, never mind the next year, where he's had to fundraise for his own wages.
Funding's always awkward. My post is funded by the college now. I used to have a fine percentage of my wages. We've got funding from the Monument Trust to have a presence for 2 years at the minute at Queen Mary and London School of Economics. But the funding that we have for dyslexia provision and everything else, Fiona's post is running out. The college has given us a little bit of money for an admin post for a year. So it's always, the funding situation is always tenuous.
It's always been a struggle, and even though they've got some good funders now, they can't really plan for that much of a future because they don't know how long the funding's going to last, especially in this climate. So, you know, I would always support what Joe's doing because of how he's put his and Fiona, they've had, you know, and most of the people, he's put his whole life into it.
What I'd say to government, well, what I'd say to the taxpayer is, do you want to fund a cell and the hospitalisation and the mental torment that the next victim of crime is going to happen, or do you want to fund an open book project that costs a lot less and the next victim of crime ain't happening? It don't take rocket science to work out which is the best to invest in.
It sounds really hippie-fied, I don't know. But it is like a family, do you know what I mean? And we've got a group of people here who I think are the most inspirational people in the world. So I think bringing that group of people together and having a little bit of a role in those people being able to change their lives and their families' lives and, you know, the people that they love and everything else around them is probably our greatest achievement.
The people that come through Open Book have got a real loyalty to the project.
A lot of people complete degrees and so on. They come back and they give back to the projects. They say to people, I was where you are now, and I felt like you do now, and I can tell you, look at me, I'm living proof, and I will help you, and if I can help you, and it's kind of self-perpetuating.
Absolutely, yeah. Nervous and looking around and thinking, who's this, who's that? You know, what am I doing here? So yeah, if I kind of spot that in a person, I tend to go over and say, hey, look, I'm Paul. What do you want? What are you doing? You know, you should do this, and try and be as enthusiastic as possible.
I said to Joe that I'd like to come and offer myself and hopefully help other people like they helped me.
And yeah, it's just become sort of like a family to me that I never really had before.
If I say I love the project, you know, I'm not being churlish. I really love it. I love the people. I like the people that I work with, the people, the students. It was the support. It was always about the support that you got from other people when I first came here, because I was in Greenwich and I would come down here every day to be with everyone from Open Book. They're like my people.
With Open Bookers, I feel security. There's a sense of security there which I never had as a child in my family.
If somebody disappears and doesn't come back for 2 or 3 weeks, it doesn't matter, they come back. You can go away for 2 or 3 years and come back and you still seem to be in the same atmosphere. It's remarkable.
I think that in a way that summarises it, in that so much of it is the personalities of the people who are involved. They're all, in a way, larger than life, but without making any efforts to be charismatic. It's just who they are. I think it's their life experiences have made them such big characters, which is what makes them such a joy to work with.
Open Book works because of the people. It's not one person, it's not 2 people, it's all those people involved in Open Book make Open Book what it is.
I hope there's a future for Open Book, but I wouldn't have thought that it would be right now I wouldn't have thought that funding would come from government necessarily. I think it would probably be reliant upon other sort of sources, maybe other philanthropic sources, you know.
All about people passionate about what they do. Because we believe in what we do, then most people from the outside see us as being genuine and genuinely doing it for the right reasons and genuinely doing it because we want to change things.
I still do a lot of stuff like I still recruit students for Open Book. Also always have to keep my feet on the ground, and I always like to do work in the community and work with people like me. One, because I think it's important to do that, and secondly, I don't want to get too far in the academic world and become something else.
So we want to sort of spread what we're doing right across every university we can think of. Because we do it properly and we do it right and we know what we're doing. We don't want people from outside telling us about ourselves anymore and how we're out of reach and how it's bullshit. We're the people who do it. So we want to get out and we want to get as many universities as possible. We want to do some. We want to train people. We want to do advisory work. We want to do consultancy work.
I think they need to be a little bit more organised. Although the unstructured approach does work for them, I think with a little bit of more organisation they'll be able to expand, and there'll be bigger groups rather than touching groups of 10 here and there. It would be nice to see them being able to really incorporate the project into different universities across London rather than just Goldsmiths.
Personally, I might do English, I might do creative writing, philosophy. Who knows? I've not really made a decision as of yet, but I definitely want to go into higher education. I'd like to do the foundation course for a year and then go on to do a 4-year degree.
As far as I'm aware, there's nothing to stop anyone who's got a criminal record serving at the bar. The problem comes when you try to get a chambers. So that's something. I mean, obviously we'd have to have the chambers on board before we push the law stuff. But that's something I want to try and do. I want to try and get some chambers on board and have our people come through and then perhaps get pupillage, and even though they've got criminal records or whatever. And so because we've got a lot of people who've got degrees, the best way in the law probably is a conversion degree rather than just studying law. See if there's something we can do around that as well.
Drama teacher, that's what I'm aiming for. I think that's what I would like, but also youth and community. I want to work within that because I come from, when I was young, I didn't have a good upbringing. I want to give these young people something different to what they have now. What
I'd love to see is our people in positions of influence, our people in positions where they are able to formulate policy. Do you know what I mean? Rather than have this sort of middle class academic sort of perspective on everything that goes on in the country. Have some people that actually lived and experienced what they're talking about.
Well, I'm hoping to go to university in September, but as yet I'm still awaiting confirmation. If I don't get in again this year, I'm just going to have to carry on sort of doing shorter courses to work towards it. I've recently completed my English and psychology sort of combined studies unit. But perhaps I need more education, more sort of GCSEs and things.
I would like to see open book in every university and college throughout the country. I'd like to see an open book project.
I'm positive at the minute. Because I think we're getting our message out and we're getting more people on board with them, and more people are recognising that what we're doing is and how we're doing it is the right way to do it, and what we're doing is the right thing to do.
I would like to get into politics. I think I'll be very good in politics because I like to watch Question Time, daily politics, and I think I'm quite a strong-minded person. I have strong opinions. I like debates as well. I think I want to get into politics. But maybe you want to go and present in a political show or something, or questioning an important body in the politics field. I don't know.
So we want to take over the world, really.
That I will always have a special place in my heart for the people at Open Book.
Best thing I ever did. I wouldn't still be here, nearly 6 years later, if it wasn't, I just feel at home here and make some great friends, have a good laugh, and you don't know where you can end up, what you can end up doing really, what you can achieve. So, yeah.
It sounds sort of cliche to say it's been life-changing, but it really has,
A real lifesaver. Without them, I would never have done the degree. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this now.
Just that, I think it's such an amazing project, and I've found it personally really helpful over the last few years to know that Open Book is here, and I've loved working with them, and they're the sort of partly the topic of my PhD as well, so I feel quite passionate about what Open Book does, but also about the project and all of the people who make up the project, and I really think that it would be an absolute travesty if they weren't able to sort of continue and expand upon this very important work.
I owe Joe everything, and Open Book. Yeah, everything I owe them.
I'll never forget Open Book. I'll always go back and help out where I can.
I'm really grateful to Open Book, and I just hope that funding continues and that they can help many more people like myself.
I just hope I can keep working and doing things for Open Book, as it's changed my life so much.
I'm just really grateful to the project, overwhelmingly grateful to everybody involved in the project for showing me that I can achieve something with my life.
Maybe I should just quote Joe Baden at our very first Open Stage showcase, which was "Viva Open Book."
So Joe, what's happening today?
Fancy bar now.
Matt, 36, looking for a woman aged 25 to 40 with good sense of humour.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Fucking loads, but I ain't going.
According to the papers, we had 25,000 people go through level 1 courses. That means that we've helped all these different people. It's bullshit. It don't mean anything. They haven't achieved anything because only half of those people needed those courses. Most of them could have been doing fucking A levels and whatever. And it's bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Back to the question.
I can't remember the question, wasn't it?
They've got the figures, they've got the proof, they've got the people there to stand up and say, yes, I've done it for Open Book. They ain't. They've just got great big budgets that are disappearing with nothing at the end. I'm getting to sound like Joe now, aren't I? That's listening to too much.
I think the personal achievement is the fact that we kept the project going. I've managed to keep the project going. I've got a degree myself. I've got awards and things like that. Yeah, I've got little awards and stuff.
I've seen the shrine behind me.
yeah. I never put it up.
You've got a better one at home, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got that.